Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this exciting webinar presenting the new free test project Python OpenSDK that is 100% open source and will help you overcome many challenges in Selenium and Appium testing. Before we get started, you should all know that by the end of the event, you will all receive directly to your email a recording of the entire webinar, the presentation slides, and those of you who will attend the entire session will also receive a cool certificate of attendance. Please feel free to ask all of your questions in the Q&A section in this Zoom event. We'll make sure to address as many questions as possible during the session. And of course, we will answer some questions live at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our wonderful host for today, Bas Dijkstra. Bas is a test automation expert and the main contributor of the TestProject Python SDK. He teaches companies around the world how to improve their testing efforts through test automation. He is an independent trainer, consultant, and developer living in the Netherlands. And we're very happy to have you here with us, Bas. So the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Karen. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, perfectly.
Excellent. Depending on where you are, it's either good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of you. I'm really happy to get the opportunity today, this afternoon, for me to share with you some of the features of the, as Karen already said, the entirely new Python SDK for the TestProject platform. What I'll be doing today is I'm going to show you how to get started with the SDK, how to turn existing Selenium tests or Appium tests that you might have into ones that are powered by the TestProject platform and all the features that are provided by the platform. First, I'm going to show you how to configure the SDK, get started with it. I'm going to show you how to run your tests, how to check the reports. I'm going to dive a little deeper into the various reporting features of the platform and the SDK after that. And finally, I'm going to also show you how to use the TestProject Python SDK together with your existing Appium tests. So for those of you who have never used TestProject or the platform before, for me, the main advantages of using the TestProject platform is the fact that I don't have to manage my own drivers anymore, because that's all being taken care of by TestProject, by the TestProject platform for me. So there's no more fiddling with the right version of my Chrome drivers or my Firefox drivers anymore, or my Appium server and manually keeping that running, because that's all being taken care of by the TestProject agent and the TestProject platform for me. And the second big benefit for me is that without having to actually change or do anything on my existing code base, I get beautifully designed reports and dashboarding on the TestProject platform for absolutely free. And I'm going to show you today how to, as I said already, how to turn your existing Selenium and Appium based tests into tests that fully use the power of the TestProject platform. Before you get started, the first thing you need to do, and because of that, there are a couple of steps that you need to take to fully use the power of the TestProject platform, is registering on the TestProject website, which is testproject.io, and get a developer token. This developer token is used to uniquely identify your user You need and authenticate with the authenticate your SDK with the agent that's running on your local machine. And as a next step, automatically add that token that's also going to be used to uniquely identify your agent with the right projects on the TestProject platform. It is absolutely free. So, and the entire TestProject platform is absolutely free to use. So there are no plans, no paid plans. It is unlimited usage, no limitations there whatsoever. So that's probably good to know for you before you start asking, but what will it cost me? It will cost you absolutely nothing to do what I'm going to show you right now. Once you've got that unique developer token, you need to make the SDK aware of it. And the easiest way to do that is by creating an environment variable on your local machine, or on the machine that's going to run the test. That can be your local machine. That can be a Jenkins node or a GitLab runner, or it doesn't really matter, but the machine needs to be aware of that developer token, and the easiest way to do that is by storing it into an environment variable with name tp_dev_token. So again, it is unique. So for every account, for every user that you have in the test platform, you will have a unique developer token. The second step is downloading and installing the TestProject agent. Now, I'm going to walk you through these steps. I'm not going to actually perform them for you, because that would just be really boring for you to watch me download and install that TestProject agent. I've done that already on my machine, but I'm going to quickly talk you through it so you know what steps to take. And it really is as easy as what I'm saying here. So you download and install the TestProject agent, which is an agent that's running on your local machine. The SDK will communicate with that agent. It will send everything that the agent needs to know to the agent. It's going to request a session from the agent. I'm going to remind you of this. I'm going to talk through this again when we actually start running our tests. So no worries. And the agent is also responsible for sending all the information about your test runs, the results, the reports, all the screenshots, everything that ends up in the reporting. The agent will send that to the TestProject platform. So you don't need, the only thing you need to do is to make sure that your SDK knows that your TestProject agent is live and where it is running. Again, the easiest way to do that is by configuring the address in an environment variable, tp_agent_URL. It is optional to do this. So if you just run this agent on your local machine, with the, if you just, it's an installer. So if you just click next, finish, it'll run your agent on your local machine, so on localhost, on port 8585. The SDK will default to that address. So if you, it's only really necessary to configure this address if you're running the agent on a machine or on a port, because you could run it from everywhere, really. It doesn't have to run on your local machine, as long as you can communicate with the agent, but it will default to localhost.8585. If you want another address, an environment variable would probably be the easiest way of configuring that address. Once you've created an account on the TestProject platform, downloaded and installed, or created and configured your developer token, downloaded and installed your agent, the final thing you need to do is register your TestProject agent on the TestProject platform. So you do that on app.testproject.io/ #agents. You click register agent, you go through the menu, and if all goes well, your agent shows up in the list of agents and looks somewhat like you see on this slide. So you have some information about the agent, whether or not it's public, your computer name, your operating system version, any browsers that the agent has detected. So the agent automatically detects which browsers are installed on your machine, which browser versions. And it also, what it will do for you is automatically download and configure the corresponding WebDriver agent or the corresponding browser, Selenium and Appium browser drivers for you. So you don't need to do that yourself anymore. The final thing to do before we get started is install the actual SDK. So what is the SDK? The SDK is a Python library which you include into your test automation project, just like you would do with any other library in Python. So in Python, what we typically use is pip, the Python package installer. So it's available on PyPy, which is the Python package repository. And all you need to do really is execute this command, pip install, and then TestProject-Python-SDK. And what that will do is it will install the SDK for you, as well as any dependencies that are required by the SDK. So because the implementation of the SDK relies on a number of libraries as well, such as Selenium and Appium, and requests, and a couple more, it'll install those for you as well. And once you've installed the SDK, you're really ready to go. This is also for me the time to stop talking and start showing you some things about how this works. What I've done, I've prepared a couple of pretty basic tests. So this is an existing Selenium-based test. It's a pretty straightforward test. But for everybody who knows a little bit about testing or has some experience with writing Selenium tests in Python, should recognize what is happening here. For those of you who don't, what I'm doing here is I'm creating a new driver. I'm navigating to the application that I want to test, and in this case, it is it is an example application on the TestProject website. And I'm finding some elements to interact with them, and I'm either typing some values into the text fields or I'm clicking on a button. So basically what this does, it simulates a login action. So it fills in a username and a password, and it clicks on the login button. And after that, it checks whether an element, which has an ID of greetings, which represents a greeting message for a logged in user, if it is displayed. So this test checks if a login action has been performed successfully. So this is a basic Selenium-based test. I purposely haven't applied any good programming practices and often used patterns in Selenium, like page object models or anything that has to do with data-driven testing or any reporting, because we're going to get that from TestProject. I purposely did not do that because I wanted my test to be simple and straightforward, so you could really see what is happening. Even if you're using page objects or any other frameworks or additional libraries, that has no effect on how you use the TestProject platform altogether, because everything is managed through the driver object. And as we see, as you can see in a bit, that's also the only object that is really going to be influenced by the change that I'm going to have to make in my code to use the TestProject platform. Before I'm going to do that, I'm going to quickly demonstrate to you that this thing really works. So if I run my test, it's going to start a browser. It's going to log in. It's just happening a little too quickly, but as you can see, my test passed. So there's nothing TestProject related happening here yet, but I just wanted to demonstrate to you that this is an actual running test. It does some checks. I could, for example, say, check that it's false, and it's going to fail. As you can see, this is going to fail because it is displayed. This is just a vanilla Selenium-based test, really. If I want to turn this into a TestProject-powered test, all I really need to do is, once again, make sure that that the SDK is installed, that I've configured everything, so that I've configured the developer token, I've configured the agent, and made sure that the agent is running. It's running right here for me. And then the only thing I really need to do is change this import statement. So the TestProject SDK, and this goes, by the way, the SDK is available for Java, C# as well. The architectures and the way these SDKs are built for the different languages, they are exactly the same. So what you see here applies equally to the TestProject SDKs in Java and C#. And there are a couple of more languages coming up in the near future as well. So keep your eyes out for that as well if you use a different language from any of those. But the only thing I need to change is I'm going to use a different WebDriver class. I'm going to use the WebDriver class from the TestProject SDK. So instead of directly using the WebDriver class from Selenium, I'm going to use the one that's in the TestProject SDK. So I don't, this is the only thing for a basic test. This is really the only thing that I need to change. So the entire test method stays exactly the same. The only thing that I've changed is I'm now using the WebDriver class, so the Chrome class that's in there, from my SDK. And all the actions that are available in Selenium are still available in the WebDriver package and the Chrome class from the SDK, because it's an extension of it. So I can still do driver dot anything really. You find all the actions that are available on the driver on an object of type Chrome when you use the TestProject. So it doesn't limit you to do anything. It just gives you some extra options and some extra power, as we'll see in a bit. So let me run this test again. Again, it starts a Chrome instance. It's going to run the test again. It's passing again. It takes a little longer the first time because what happened is I'm not using I'm now communicating with the agent here by using the WebDriver instance from the SDK. What's happening on the under the hood is that this constructor, it initiates a new session with the TestProject agent. So it sends a request to the test project, give me a browser of type Chrome. I could also pass any additional Chrome options to the agent. As I said, you can do everything what you can do with vanilla Selenium with this SDK as well. And it's just, it's going to request a Chrome driver session from the agent, and all commands that you send to the driver via the WebDriver protocol are handled by the agent now. So as you can see, my test still passed, and if you could see what was happening on the screen, it still performed the exact same test, but now it was handled by a TestProject Chrome driver, not by a vanilla Selenium Chrome driver. What it has also done, and this is probably the biggest benefit that you get from doing this, it has automatically created a new report for me, an HTML report, without me having to change anything in my existing Selenium-based test. So if I look here on the TestProject platform, I can see a new test execution here from just 2 minutes ago. And if I open that, I can see a report which contains an HTML report which contains a passing test. And inside that test, I see all kinds of commands being reported. I can see my test has passed. It's been executed on Chrome, so the agent automatically detects that it's being, because you requested the Chrome session, it'll also show you that it was a test that run on Chrome. And what it automatically does is it reports a test for each test method that's being executed. So in this case, it's just a single test method, so you get only one test here. And what it also automatically does is it reports all the driver commands that have been executed. So at the first, all WebDriver commands, so to say. So you need to know a little bit about how Selenium or WebDriver works on the hood. But what it does is, first I navigated to a page, then I looked up an element, I typed something in that element, I looked up another element, I typed something in there as well, I looked up the login button, I clicked on it, I located an element, the greetings element, so the confirmation message that showed that my user was successfully logged in, and then it executed a script. Why is it called W3C execute script? Because that's the actual name of the WebDriver command that's being executed. So that's not a design choice from us, the people who developed the SDK. This is just the WebDriver protocol. This is the name of the WebDriver command that's been executed. But in the details, you can see what exactly was there. So this is the check that was performed to see if that element was displayed. So the WebDriver and the WebDriver protocol Selenium does that by executing a piece of JavaScript, actually. But this is what you get for absolutely free, without any additional configuration, when you use the TestProject WebDriver from the SDK. One other thing that might be interesting, so what it also does by default is, because we typically don't want any passwords or other types of sensitive data to show up in the reports, because not only are these reports available here on the TestProject platform, but they can also be downloaded in a PDF form, and they can be emailed to other people. And you typically don't want actual password values to be stored and hidden and stored and distributed to who knows who's going to see these reports. So what it automatically does is, before every command that's being reported, it checks, did we type something in a text field, and was the text field a text field that is known to contain sensitive data. So for example, all password fields on web pages, they have a specific attribute. So we look for that attribute, and if we see that attribute in a field, we automatically we change the actual value that's being typed in there with these 3 asterisks. This is a feature that can be disabled, but by default we want it enabled, because we don't want to just store and report passwords everywhere, and for who knows who's going to see this. So that's basically all you need to do to get started. So again, obtain and configure your developer token, download, install and configure your agent, register the agent, and change the import, install the SDK, and change the import to use a TestProject based driver instead of the standard Selenium web driver. That's all you need to do to start using the TestProject platform and enjoying these HTML reports that you just saw. And so what did we see in this reporting feature so far? It generates HTML reports out of the box, which are then, you can export them to PDF, and you can actually email them as well. It contains all the driver commands. We'll see in a bit how you can further configure and customize the reporting that you want to do. What you might also have noticed is that it automatically, that I didn't need to specify a project name or a job name or a test name for my report. So somehow the SDK decided that my project name was tests, my job name was Selenium Chrome test, and my test name was test example using Chrome. The SDK automatically is able to automatically infer project, job, and test names if you're using PyTest or unit test, which are the 2 most commonly used unit testing frameworks in Python. It can also infer job and test names if you don't use a unit testing framework at all, but I don't think there will be many of you who don't. But if in case you just have a script that you want to run and do some reporting, it'll automatically also infer the job and the test names for you. For what it actually relates to, this is my project with that contains my tests again. So the project name is the current package that the test resides in. The job name is the module that contains my test methods, and the actual test is the name of the test method. So that's what it's going to use. Even if you, with PyTest, if you use fixtures or other types of, if you use unit test, you have setup and teardown and setup class and teardown class methods, it'll still detect the right test method that you're using. So it doesn't, if you create a driver object in a setup class, it'll still know which test method that belongs to. And there's some pretty nifty logic working under the hood to make sure that your reports use, contain and use the right names. Again, it can do this for both PyTest and unit test. And finally, it automatically reports a test. How does it do this? It reports a test when driver.quit is called. So it's really important that you do call this driver.quit method, and that you make sure that it's being called. If you accidentally don't, if for some reason your driver.quit is not called, it'll also detect when the test method that's being executed, the name of the test method changes. And so if driver.quit was not called, but it was still, it's for some reason it started running a new test method, the SDK will detect that, and it'll also automatically report a test with all the information that it gathered before that, and so that your reporting is consistent with your actual test execution. And the final point is we also got the redaction of sensitive data. This is what you get out of the box without any additional reporting configuration. The next thing that I would like to show you is a couple of options that allow you to further customize your reporting. I would like to get started with specifying a custom project job and method, or a project job and test name, sorry. So if you don't explicitly specify a project, a job, and or a test name, the SDK will infer them from the package, the module, and the test method name, in case of PyTest, as well as for unit test, by the way. If you want to specify a custom project or job name, because you have different tests in different packages that still belong to the same project, and you want to override, and you want to specify your own project and job names in this case. There are two ways you can do this with the SDK. The first one is by using this decorator, which I need to import first. There we go. So that's, sorry, so that's this one, and the report decorator, where I can specify a project name, and I can specify a webinar job. And so this is the first way in which you can specify a custom project and a custom job name. So if I run this test again, let's hope it still passes as we expect it to. There we go. Hooray, that looks good. So if I now go to my reporting overview again, I can see I've got a new project here, which is called the TestProject Webinar Project, unsurprisingly, with a single job in there that's called Webinar Job, which not coincidentally are the exact values that we specified here in the decorator. Come on. It's a little bit slow from time to time. There we go. That's just my machine. And we still have that same test name that we saw previously, because I didn't do anything to change that. Now, if I also want to change the test name, I can do that here as well. Custom test name. Oops. The joy of live coding. And run the test again. I'm sorry, I can't speed up this process. That's why I purposely kept the test itself pretty short. So if I do a refresh now, I get another execution, but now the test name has also changed. The second way in which I can do this, I can also specify a project name, project, and a job name in the constructor here, and I won't be able to specify the test name here. If I also want to, I can specify a project and a job name as arguments to the driver constructor. Of course, this is test project specific. You wouldn't be able to do this with your regular Selenium Chrome in your regular Selenium Chrome class. If I also want to report a test, so for example, I want to report that my test has passed at the end of my test, I can say report a test with my self-reported test name, a message that goes along with it, and of course I want to be able to indicate if this one was passed or failed. And so and you could pause. This is just a Boolean argument. You can. It's up to you to decide how to determine whether or not your test is passed. TestProject will not detect that for you, but it can report it for you. What I now also need to do, because this is where things get interesting in terms of reporting. As I said previously, the SDK is also going to automatically report a test when I call driver.quit. But I'm now also manually reporting a test here. So what happens then is, as you'll see, your test will run fine. It'll just, because the actual Selenium logic didn't change or anything. But if I look what's being reported now, if I look up what's being reported now, well, I have to go back here because I specified different project and job names here. I have this execution with 2 tests in there. This is why there's a warning in the documentation, stuff like that. I'm accidentally mixing up manual and automatic reporting here. So by default, the SDK automatically reports a test when either the test method name changes or driver.quit is called. But I now also report a manual test. So what happens here is all the commands that are being executed are reported manually, are reported automatically, and I manually report this test, and this test is failed because I said it failed. But there's also another test, and because it detected, well, there's still something running here, and upon driver.quit, a test is reported. There's nothing in there because nothing happened between this statement and this driver.quit, but still there's something to it reported something. If I want to use this feature, this manual reporting of a test, I need to disable the automatic reporting of tests. Luckily, I can do that. So and the best way probably to do that is right after the driver object has been created, so nothing's being reported yet. I can, report, I can say disable automatic test reports. If I disable this, and I need to pass it an argument. Let's say I want to disable this. Now I disabled the automatic test reporting, and I'm reporting a test manually here. And so, because with automatic test reporting, we can only use test names that are automatically inferred. If I want to use manual, if I want to configure custom test names, I need to go the manual route and use driver.report.test. And now, if we do a refresh to see what's reported, yes. Here we go. It just reports this self-reported test name, which is exactly what we were looking for. So if you accidentally get some extra tests that are maybe skipped, or maybe something happens in between, you're probably mixing up both automatic reporting of tests and manual test reporting. What I can also do is if you this is a fairly short test, right? But you can already see it has quite a few driver commands that are being reported. If your test uses a lot of forms with a lot of interacts with a lot of different elements, this list will get quite long. You can also disable, oops, let me enlarge it again, the automatic reporting of driver commands. So if you use the disable command reports option, say I want to disable it here, you can, basically what this does is it disables the automatic reporting of those driver commands. What's going to happen now, and I'm not going to show you right now because that would just take a little bit too much time, but what now happens is that nothing gets reported. So there's no automatic test reporting, there's just this manual test reporting, but it's empty because the only thing that would end up in there are those driver commands, and we just disabled the reporting of those. If you still want to add some steps to the report, you can do that too by using not driver.report.test, but driver.report.step. So within a single test, you can report one or more custom steps. So for example, I have a step with a description, login has been successful with a message. It's my message. Is it passed? I think it is. And with steps, I also have the option to include a screenshot, which I think is a very nice option to have in HTML reports of UI-driven tests as well. So what I'm now doing here is I've specified custom project and job names. I've disabled the automatic test report, so I'm only going to report this manually reported test. I've disabled the command reports, and I reported just a single step with this description. I indicated that it passed, and I want a screenshot in there. So let's see what our reporting looks like. No, I don't want a breakpoint. If I run this test, here we go. That's done. Let's find the report again. I have here my self-reported test name. and a login step with the screenshot that I expected, the screenshot that I requested, which also shows that this is the, for those of you who didn't see it when the actual test executed, this hello John Smith, let's complete the test form. That's the element that we were searching for to determine whether or not our test has been successful. Finally, the last option that I want to show you with regards to the reporting is, let me disable this again and these two. So we're now back to our standard setup. The last thing that I want to show, as I said, by default, the SDK redacts what it thinks is sensitive data. And again, what it thinks is sensitive data is text that's being typed into a field of type password, or for iOS text field, it has an extra field that that has also been marked as being as containing sensitive data. If I say I don't want those asterisks, I want to know what's being typed into that password field, I can disable the redaction as well. Is true. And of course, with any type of reporting that you disable at some point, you can also re-enable it later on. So if you have a long test and you say, I don't want the driver reports for most of the driver commands being reported for most of the test, but there is this specific part of the test where I do want to see them, and you can re-enable them by if at some point you could say disable command reports and then pass the value false to re-enable it. And so these are just toggles that you can apply throughout your test. So it's not that you set them once and then you're stuck with that setting for the remainder of your test. These are toggles that you can switch on and off just how you like. So if I disable this redaction, if I say I don't want to redact those elements anymore, you will actually be able to see the super secret password 12345 being reported in the HTML report. So by default, we designed this to be aware of your sensitive data and careful with your sensitive data. But if you want these passwords to show up in your reports anyway, come on, you can do this. So if I disable the redaction now, instead of these asterisks here, it'll just show you the password. And again, this is something that can be toggled on or off at any point in your test, as long as that driver object is alive. So what we've seen, summarizing report customization options. I can customize project jobs and test names using the report decorator. I can include manual test reporting, and I can manually report tests and report steps with screenshots if I want to do that. And be careful to, if you report tests manually, to disable the automatic test reporting. Otherwise, as you saw, your reports are going to look a bit funny. I can disable the reporting of driver commands and re-enable them later on whenever I want. And I can disable and re-enable the redaction of sensitive data, so replacing your passwords with those asterisks. There are a couple of more options. I would like to invite you to check out this blog post that was published just a couple of days ago, and see what other options there are there, and all the other documentation around the TestProject SDK has an overview of all the reporting options there as well. The final thing that I want to show you, because as I said in the introduction, the SDK does not just only support Selenium tests, what we've seen so far, we also support mobile testing with Appium. To show you how that works, I've prepared, oops, there we go, another test. This is, again, a very straightforward Appium test. Again, this works on a TestProject demo app on an emulator running on my own machine. As you can see, for those of you who are familiar with Appium tests, it runs on an Android emulator. Because I don't specify a browser name, that means I'm running this on a native app. I'm not running this on a mobile web. So I'm not starting a browser on my machine, I'm running a native app. So this is just vanilla Appium code. I start a WebDriver, an instance of WebDriver.remote with these capabilities, and capabilities are the way in Appium to specify the platform that you're running on, the name of the emulator, the name of the app that you want to automate, and stuff like that. For good measure, just to show you that the SDK truly supports both Selenium and Appium, I've thrown in a couple of mobile specific driver commands. So this start activity command is something that's that's an Appium specific feature. So Appium is an extension of Selenium, but this start activity thing is something that's related to mobile apps and not to web applications. So I just wanted to show you that it also truly does support Appium tests. And then again, this app is basically the same as the web application that we so we're simulating a login action again. Even the IDs are the same. So this is basically the same as we saw for the web application. And again, I'm checking that this find element by ID, this greetings element is displayed. Now for this, because it's a mobile app and it's a little bit slower, I cheated a little and included a time.sleep here. I could have just done this the nice way with a WebDriver wait, but I was a little lazy, so you'd have to forgive me for that. And again here, before I call the driver.quit, I call the close app method, which again is an Appium specific method, which is not something that's also in Selenium, but it's Appium specific. Now to turn this vanilla Appium test into a TestProject powered one, again, all I need to do is change the import from Appium import WebDriver to from source.testproject.sdk.drivers import WebDriver. That's it. As long as you have your development token set up, your agent set up, and your agent is registered on the TestProject platform, and you can see this is the way to see that that the platform detected an agent running and connected on your local machine. You're good to go. So just like with Selenium, converting your Appium-based tests into tests that are that use the features from the TestProject platform. The only thing you need to do is change that import line. Now I also don't need to run a local Appium server anymore because my agent acts as that Appium server. So if I wanted to use vanilla Appium, I'd have to run an Appium server on my local machine, which acts as an intermediary between my test code and the emulator. But that's what the agent is for now. So I don't need to run Appium itself on my local machine anymore. As long as I run the agent, this test should run fine. There we go. So here's my emulator again. It's going to flash something. It's going to start the app. It's going to perform some actions. There we go. That was it already. Short test again. And just like with the Selenium-based test, I didn't specify any custom reporting options, so it uses the information that PyTest gives us to infer a project, a job, and a test name, just like with Selenium, so nothing different there. But now I have this Appium native Android test, and this is the one that I just executed. So again, it used the automatically inferred project name, the job name, and the name of the test, test Android native app, which is the name of my test method. It had the agent also reported that this was, it sees that this is an Android-based test on an emulator that's called emulator-5554. And it reports all the driver commands again, just like you saw with the Selenium-based test. So again, passwords are redacted. And also the Appium-specific commands, such as start activity and close app. And because these are all these are Appium-specific, but these are just WebDriver commands. So these can be reported in exactly the same way. So if you include Appium-specific actions or options or Appium calls in there, these are going to be reported automatically in exactly the same way as it is with the send keys and the clicks which you perform with Selenium. So as you can see, using this SDK for your Appium-based test is virtually the same as for your Selenium test. It's just a matter of using a TestProject driver instead of the standard Appium driver, making sure that your environment, your developer token and your agent is configured correctly, and that is all you need. And obviously, all the reporting options that I've shown you just before with your Selenium tests, these are available for Appium tests as well. So there's no difference in features between Selenium-based tests and Appium-based tests, at least not when it comes to reporting. If you want to know a little more, we've also just last week, early last week, we published a blog article on creating mobile Appium tests with this SDK as well. What's probably also good to know is I've shown you a test running on an emulator that runs Android, and the test ran against the native app. So, but the SDK, like Appium itself, it supports both Android and iOS. So it's not just limited to Android. We can do iOS just as well. And the good thing is, because we use the agent here, you can even run your iOS tests from a Windows machine, which is incredibly hard, if not impossible to do if you use Appium itself. I've actually seen this. I'm running on a Windows machine, but I have an iPhone, and I was able to connect my own iPhone to my Windows machine and run Appium-based tests on that using this SDK, which would never, which is really hard to do if you do it with Appium, just with Appium yourself. And so there's support for both Android and iOS. We support both mobile web and native app testing. So if I specified in the capabilities, if I specified a browser, that would tell Appium and the agent to not start a native app, but start a browser that's installed on your, in this case, on the Android emulator, so Chrome, or in case of an iOS emulator, a Safari browser, and run your tests on there. And so it does both mobile web and native app testing. And it supports both emulators and real devices. So if you want to connect a real device to your machine and run some tests on there, you can do that too. And you can even connect your iPhone to your Windows machine like I did, and run your iOS tests on your Windows machine like that. That's it for what I wanted to show you about how to get started with the SDK. I think I mentioned this already at the beginning of this webinar, or maybe Karen did as well. But the SDK it's not only free to use, but it's completely open source as well. So if you see an issue when you're using it, or if you think of a great feature that you think that would be a great addition to this SDK, we invite you to contribute to this as well. So all the source code is available on GitHub on this site. It's, again, completely open source. If there's an issue, if you encounter something you think is a problem, feel free to report an issue. We're happy to have a look, and if it's a proper and genuine issue, we'll address it, absolutely. Even better, if you want to contribute, you're invited to submit a pull request as well, and we are more than happy to take a look at that, and if we're happy with it, to include it in future releases of this SDK as well. That's it from me. Back to you, Karen. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Bas, for this wonderful presentation. There are actually a lot of questions, great stuff coming in from all the attendees here. So I guess we could start with some of them at the time we have left, and go from there. So
yeah, there's quite a bit of time left, so I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Great. So do you want to open? Do you have the Q&A section in front of you, or?
I do now.
Great. I guess we can start with. I mean, we have over 100 answered questions already, and
oh, wow.
more open questions as well. So we can go ahead and get started with the open ones.
Yes. Shall I just go through them from top to bottom?
Yeah, sounds perfect.
So, and I'm extremely sorry if I butcher the pronunciation of all of your names. So
yeah, me too.
Sikindar asked, without driver path, how it worked. So, and one of the big benefits I told you is, if you use the TestProject agent, you don't need to manually configure the driver paths anymore. So if at the agent, when you start the agent, it's going to scan your machine for it's going to configure, it's going to scan your machine for installed browsers, sorry, and it's going to download and configure the corresponding drivers with it. So whenever you start the agent, it's going to go through your system configuration again, see what browsers are installed, see which versions of those browsers are active, and then download and configure the corresponding drivers for it. So there's no need to answer the configure the driver part yourself anymore. Rishikesh asked, does this SDK have SSL? Is true. I'm not sure which part of the entire connection this refers to be honest.
Well, if you'd like to elaborate, Harishi
Yes.
Kesh, then feel free. At the moment, we can move forward to the next one.
Mega asked, does TestProject handle similar patterns for Puppeteer tests as well? No. Short of it. I'm not 100% sure. I think Puppeteer is I don't know if it's just JavaScript or if it's available for other languages as well. But at the moment we don't support it. If this is something that you would like to see supported because it's used, then by all means, submit an issue to the GitHub site, ask for it, and we'll see what we can do. If you go to the GitHub site for the Python SDK, you'll see that there are already a number of issues there, and some of them are actually really good recommendations, and we've labeled them as enhancements, which means they're going to be included in future versions of the SDK. So if you see something that you think is missing and would be a valuable addition, please submit an issue and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I actually just sent you all in the chat a link to the GitHub of the Python SDK, so definitely feel free to do so. Thank
you. Deepesh asked, how does the workflow work, like pulling the branch from Bitbucket from Jenkins and execute the test cases? That's not something that the SDK does for you. So that is something that you would have to configure yourself, just like as Selenium doesn't do that for you or Appium doesn't do that for you. We just make running the test and reporting the test a little bit easier. This SDK doesn't take care of pulling the latest version of your test code and your application code and building all the stuff, and that's something that either Bitbucket, which you seem to use, or Jenkins or GitLab should take care of. That's not what we think is the responsibility of this SDK. The second one from the top is also about Puppeteer. I think I'm going to dismiss that because that was we covered that just. Do you suggest to organize each test case in a module in order to make them reusable using only an import? That's not something specific to this SDK, I think. And that's more of how do I organize my tests. I wouldn't. Of course, reusability is good, but I wouldn't import reuse test cases per se. If I have reusable parts or bits in my test case that I want to reuse, I would make them reusable. For example, using page objects is a very common way to do this. I didn't do that in the examples because I wanted them to be as straightforward as possible, because there's nothing beyond, so you see everything that's going on there. But I wouldn't export and import test cases, test methods themselves, to be honest, because that, I think, just makes things, and it might win you some something in the reusability area, but it's really difficult to see which test is running when and which test is depending on which other test. So you get a lot of dependencies between your test methods. I wouldn't recommend doing that, to be honest. The next one from Ruslan. Besides easy reporting and simple driver setup, what is the main advantage of using TestProject? Karen.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I guess we would start with the obvious one, is that TestProject is 100% free and supporting the loved and known Selenium and Appium that we all use day to day, but simplifying them and even enhancing them even further using either the SDK that Bas, you showed us today for Python, but we also support Java and C# as well. But even those who do not have coding skills can easily find their way in TestProject because they can use our record and playback feature, which is not your standard one. It's very advanced and smart. And we are about to also release a new beta recorder, which is going to have a lot of exciting new features. So you should definitely stay tuned for that. And not to mention the huge community that we have built around TestProject, which comes into place, especially when we talk about add-ons. So add-ons are basically building blocks that help you extend your automation testing even further than you'd usually do so. And it saves you a lot of time because you don't necessarily have to develop those capabilities from scratch. You can simply incorporate an add-on, whether it's in your recorded test or in your coded test, and save a whole lot of development time that you would have done otherwise if you didn't have the add-ons library. So we have hundreds of add-ons there that are shared by the entire test automation community, and of course also completely for free. And now with this whole new OpenSDK, I really think the possibilities are endless, and you can do everything locally and automatically get these reports, and we save a bunch of time of the configuration and drivers. That is all taken care of for you with a single setup of a 5-minute installation of the agents. So I think you'll all be enjoying this. Hope this addresses the question.
Thanks, Karen. If not, I'm sure you'll. There's plenty of opportunity to follow up. I'll share the contact details just before the end of this webinar. So, Shri Shail, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name. Please forgive me. Want to know how to configure and run Selenium Grid parallel tests and capture screenshots comparing browsers. So I think that's actually 2 questions. I'm not sure with the Selenium Grid parallel testing. I think that's something that Ron may be able to answer. Who's also joining us on the webinar. He's one of the customer success engineers. Please again, slap me if I have the wrong title. But
no, Ron is good for that question, I guess. Yes. Ron, yes. Are you here with us?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to take this right now, Ron, or do you want to type an answer and let me go to the next one?
I'll type an answer. You can continue.
Okay, thank you. The question from Regina: how does the code recognize the driver path? I think I just addressed this as well. That's something that the agent takes care of. Does it have any feature like Selenium Grid? Is something that Ron is working on. So if you excuse me, I'm going to skip that one as well. Arsalan asks, what's the working background of the TestProject SDK with Python API? I'm not sure I understand that question, Arsalan. So if you want to elaborate on that, either right now in another question or at some point via email or on the forum, for which I'm going to share the link within the next 10 minutes. I'm sure we'd be happy to answer that as well.
Hey, yeah, so I guess I would like to address the parallel testing live here, just in case people don't see the answer written in the comments. So
thank you.
yes, you can definitely achieve something similar to Selenium Grid and parallel testing using TestProject. Basically, there are a number of options. The first one would be our Dockerized agent. So you can spin up a couple of agents inside a Docker container and run your tests in parallel. You can also set a couple of jobs to different agents and do that as well and trigger them via the API Swagger. So there really are a number of options, but of course, this is definitely supported with TestProject, and you can, if any of you guys here need any help with that, we can definitely help you. So just feel free to reach out to the support team, either in the built-in chat within the platform or in the forum. And what was the other question? I see the question disappeared.
No, it didn't, at least not for me.
Oh, maybe I'm not seeing it.
Capture screenshots and comparing browsers.
Oh, capture screenshots comparing browsers. Would that mean something like image comparison? Is that what?
I think so, yeah.
Well, yeah, for that we have an image comparison add-on. I will share that in a sec in the Zoom chat. I assume, Sri Shahil, this is what you are referring to, and I will definitely share that in the chat in just a second. We also have a tutorial blog about it, so I will share that.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Christian asked, does TestProject support Gradle? Well, the Python SDK doesn't, but that's because Gradle is a Java build tool. Yes, the actual at the TestProject Java SDK, if you go to the, which is now also completely open source, you'll see that the entire project is built around Gradle as a dependency manager and build tool. And then it's just yet another library or extension in your entire test automation suite. So if you build your if you use Gradle in your current test automation setup, you'll be able to use TestProject in that project just as well. So and I'm not 100% sure, but since the people who build the Java SDK also use Gradle for developing the SDK itself, I'm pretty sure they published the SDK to both the Maven repository and to the Gradle central repository as well. So
yeah, perfect answer, Bas. There, that's correct. I also just shared a link to the Java SDK in the chat as well, and for sure you can use either a Maven or a Gradle project.
Yeah. Okay, the editor name was already answered by Amol. Thank you very much. It was indeed PyCharm. Shruti asked, so for how many days it will continue?
Well, I'm not sure what's supposed to continue.
No,
but,
neither am I.
But if it's TestProject, then forever. So you can rest assured.
Is it for today only? No.
Well, I wonder what they are talking about.
Yeah, so am I. If it's this webinar, it's 7 more minutes-ish.
Yeah.
But TestProject itself and the Python, it's an ongoing product and project. So we released the SDK now, but that doesn't mean that this is it. It's an ongoing project, and I'm sure that new features will be added in the future. We've already got a couple of them listed. So
yeah, of course, we've got a lot of exciting more features coming up for 2020. And of course, this is not nothing just for today or a couple of days. TestProject is 100% free forever, so no worries.
John asked, does TestProject support some of the same test instance management features Selenium does, running multi-instance test suites, either locally or virtual, aggregating the reporting? That's a good one. I'm not sure what you refer to with test instance management, to be honest, John. If you're referring to parallel test execution, aggregating the reporting, yeah, the aggregation with the TestProject reporting is based on the projects and the jobs. So if you align that, then all the different tests that are part of that project and job, they will be aggregated under there. I'm not sure if that's what you were referring to. But that in combination with what Karen just explained about the ability to run tests in parallel with Selenium Grid, I think you should be able to get the result that you're looking for. And if not, I would love to hear in a little more detail what it is exactly that you're looking for. How can we transfer our existing Selenium projects to TestProject? It really isn't much more difficult than what I just demonstrated in this webinar.
Yeah,
it's not. You do. So I'm
sorry.
No, I'm looking for the right. So this is not a replacement. This is not replacing Selenium. It's these are extra features built on top of Selenium. So if you install the SDK, it'll actually also install Selenium and Appium as a dependency because we need that to do our work. And so it's not using Selenium or using this SDK, but you could use just vanilla Selenium. But if you also, if you use the TestProject drivers, you also automatically, you get automatic driver management for you, plus all the reporting features, plus all the other exciting stuff that Karen told you about. So it's not one or the other, but it's either just Selenium or Selenium and TestProject.
Yeah. I guess, Bas, well, yeah, we have a couple more minutes. I guess we could answer one last question before moving to the last slides.
How long the scope for TestProject in comparison to other tools out there in the open market if I meant to implement this in full scale in my company? Well, maybe that's better for you to answer as well, Karen, because you've been involved with TestProject for a long time now. So I think you share a little bit of the story there.
Yeah, well, this is definitely a great story. TestProject was founded in 2015 and was acquired by Tricentis about a year ago. So we were acquired by the #1 testing software company probably in the world. So we are fully backed and equipped to continue developing TestProject and making it more and more exciting for all of you. And we are working on a lot of more features coming up this year and for the years to come. And TestProject is completely, you can completely take it to a full scale in your company, whether it's a small company, a startup, or even an enterprise. I saw some people asking if it would be a good fit for enterprise companies. So the answer is definitely yes. We have many enterprise companies as well as other companies using TestProject. And the fact that TestProject is completely free, I think very much differs TestProject than anyone else out there in the market. So I guess this would answer your question. And I mean, that and along with all of the features that you get all out of the box with TestProject without any need to use any other tools, I think makes it pretty awesome. And I guess I'm biased, but that's true.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. There are a couple more questions open.
I think it would be best, everyone, I will share you now a link to a forum thread that we
I've got that on the
opened.
slides as well. So.
Oh, awesome. So I just sent it.
We have one other thing. We have one other thing to take care of first.
We do. So before we move to the contact info and how we can continue the questions and information, I'm very happy to announce that we have a winner for the TestProject Python Revolution Challenge. Basically, what we did is we asked you guys, how do you currently solve the challenge of reporting with Python testing open source Selenium and Appium? And the winner is in the next slide. Drum roll. So Vishab Verma, thank you very much for submitting your response to this challenge. And it's pretty cool to see that you solved this using PyTest, which is one of the unit testing frameworks that we support with this Python OpenSDK. So great job. And I think Bas was able to wonderfully demonstrate to you all how easy it is to solve this reporting challenge using TestProject, and how you do not need to do anything else other than just get started. So congratulations, and we will reach out to you and send over to you your gift card. So congrats.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I guess now, yeah, that's the slide.
Yes, yes, that's what you were looking for. So unfortunately, our time is up for now.
Yeah.
If you want to continue the discussion, or if you have any other questions, there are a number of ways in which you can get in touch with the people at TestProject. Maybe the easiest way to do it is if you go to the TestProject website, it has an in-app online chat where you can get in contact with the customer support experts like Ron and the rest of the team. There are a number of other ways to get the information that you're looking for as well. So for example, if you're looking for documentation, it's out there. There's a forum where you can answer, can ask and answer any and all questions that are related either to TestProject or to test automation in general. TestProject has a fantastic blog as well, where there are a number of tutorials and other interesting articles. GitHub, and of course, if you're a little bit more traditional like I am, there's always email, support@testproject.io. So I have plenty of resources. And again, Karen will share all these we'll share the slides with all of you after this webinar is over. So you'll have all these links available to you as well. The final slide, if you want to get in touch with me, first of all, before I get it, let me say it was an absolute pleasure doing this webinar. Thank you so much, Karen, for having me, for organizing this. If you want to get in touch with me, I read my email regularly. I answer to it too. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and if you want to see more about what I do, what Karen told me, Karen told you, you can go to ontestautomation.com and you'll see everything you need to know about me and what it is that I do. So thank you very much once again, Karen, for having me.
Sure, thank you.
I guess that's it for me.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Bas, for this wonderful webinar and this great presentation and answering all of the questions. We're very, very happy to have you on board with this great project and having you be part of the team, part of the family. And thank you, everyone, for attending this event. As Bas said, you will all receive to your email a recording of the entire webinar, the presentation slides, and those of you who attended the entire session will also receive a full certificate of attendance. Please be patient. It might take a couple of hours, but you will definitely receive all of these later today. You can make sure to follow us also on YouTube, our channel here. I just sent it in the chat, so you'd be the first to know once the webinar is live over there, even before I send the emails. So you should definitely head over to there and click the follow button. That's it. I hope you all stay safe and take care wherever you are in the world. Thank you for attending, and we will see you all at the next webinar soon. Thank you, Bas, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.